Nerduino, welcome to Crossing the Streams. It is so good to see you. First of all, of course, thank you for being here. But second, give me a quick rundown of who you are and what you do.
Hey, Morimo, how you doing? Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's great to be here. I am Nerduino, or Ian, if you prefer, whichever. I have a PhD in astronomy from the University of Illinois. I worked at NASA for about 10 years. I don't work there anymore. Now I do content creation, science outreach, and education on a bunch of different platforms. One of them is Twitch. I live stream on Twitch and put out daily YouTube videos, all kinds of stuff. So, which we're going to get into here. But yeah, that's kind of the brief overview.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen you on, I know you through Twitch, but after having followed you on the platform, seeing all your other channels that you're on, you also do short form content as well, based on the things that you talk about every day, which it seems like, multiple like daily videos, news, things like that in the science world. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I started about a year ago, actually. Now it's been going for about a year, and I think I missed a couple of days being sick, but other than that, it's been every day. And I promised myself a year. I said I would do it for a year every day. I would see how it go. But yeah, it's like it's a daily space science news update. So it's space and astronomy news, and I try and keep it to stuff that's happened within the last day or two, preferably even that day if I can. And yeah, it's just like a 60-second short to get people interested in science and just get them sort of motivated maybe to go, and because obviously I can't talk about that much in 60 seconds. It goes like you so fast. It's so hard to keep it to 60 seconds. But to just get people to maybe go look for a story on their own, or just, get interested and maybe go click through space.com or nasa.gov or one of those websites and go look for some stories.
Absolutely. Yeah, between both your live content and the shorts or the short form, there has been just a dense amount of stuff that you can learn in your stream, and that's what I love about your content in general. And so I can't wait to kind of dive right in. And I think one of the most interesting things is knowing your background with NASA, knowing you've worked with them and how that can apply today. But as far as that goes, I think I would love to find out, and I often do this on the show, how you got to streaming on Twitch. What led you to starting to create content live?
Yeah, so it's really interesting actually. I left JPL in about, so the Jet Propulsion Lab, for people who don't know. So it's NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena. There's some argument, maybe it's Pasadena, maybe it's in La Cañada, Altadena. There's all these cities that lay claim. But anyway, so I left there in about 2015 or 16. And I was doing other things. And then the pandemic came along and I was at home a lot. And yeah, I was watching some Warzone streamers actually, just to kind of, in the background. And I got chatting with their community. And they kind of found out what I did, and then they would ask questions sometimes in that stream. The streamer would be playing the game, and then people would be like, "Oh, hey, what about this or what about that?" And we would kind of have a little brief sort of text chat in about it. And then they kind of said, "You should stream this stuff. Like, I think people would be interested." And I was kind of like, "I don't think anyone would be interested in that. Like, who wants to listen to me talk about science? I don't think I wouldn't watch that." So, but anyway, they convinced me to give it a try, and yeah, I mean, it was the usual story, right? You start I kind of started streaming. I didn't really know what I was doing. I had just a basic camera and would talk. Probably, I wish I had kept some of those early streams actually, but I would just talk about papers and really heavy science stuff, and it was probably too much. But that was the genesis of it. And then some people from that Warzone community came over and were and supported me when I first started. So I didn't have to. I didn't stream to nobody for too long,
Yeah.
which helped. And, everybody does it, of course. But yeah, so that's kind of how it got started, and then that was I want to say maybe like February of 2022.
Okay. A couple of years then.
Yeah, February of 20. So I've been in about 2.5 years. Yeah, that's right. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really excellent. One thing that stands out to me is that you were able to, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you were able to just kind of jump right into the type of content that you wanted to do instead of maybe, some people start with gaming. I mean, obviously you were involved in some gaming
Yeah.
streams while you were there, but the fact that you jumped right into uh, pretty much what you do today, that's really unique in that sense. How was that for you starting off in that kind of content without having to like switch it up or change from gaming or anything?
Yeah, so I actually did stream gaming a tiny bit,
Oh,
like at the very
okay.
beginning, but for like a month or something, and then I had 6 months, and then I stopped, and then six
Okay.
months later I came back to it. Um, and in terms of the science stuff, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it helps to only be good at one thing, I think. So
Yeah.
that makes like I like playing video games. I like playing Warzone and stuff, but I'm not. Nobody, no one wants to watch me play Warzone. Like, I mean, maybe for the comedy value, but so I think in some ways that made it easier, right? It's like this is the thing that I know the best, and that I feel like I have some confidence in myself that I can teach other people about this, or at least
Right.
answer questions and sort of bring some knowledge and bring some value, right? Which I think is what it's all about at the end of the day, right? It's what value can you bring to your community, and um, it just seemed like a natural fit. But I mean, it was a struggle to begin with, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I was definitely streaming to not very many people for a while,
Yeah.
um, and it has not been easy at all, for sure. But I've always had this kind of underlying belief that I think people are interested in space and science, and you just have to find the community. And yeah, maybe it takes longer to build that community on a platform like Twitch, just because a lot of people don't even know that there is science on Twitch still, even now. Like,
Right.
we still go to TwitchCon and chat with people, and they're like, "Oh my god, there's science on Twitch! I didn't know that." And or there's all these amazing content creators like Science and Paleontologizing, and all these people, doing great stuff, and still a large fraction of the community doesn't know that it exists. So uh, it definitely there are definitely struggles, but I always felt like that was the one thing that if I wasn't able to stream this and make this a success, then I probably would have just stopped streaming rather than
Right.
rather than like try and be a Warzone streamer or something.
You already answered one of my questions, which was like if you weren't going to be streaming anything science related, what would you
Yeah,
be doing? And that makes total sense. I really admire the fact that you you really, alongside many of our other science content creators on the platform, uh, want to create that space here on Twitch. And to echo your point about there not being, it's not a major presence. It's a presence that you are still all building up. And, with folks like you and Science and, everyone else kind of paving the way, right? We got Science to
yeah,
ambassador, which is a pretty huge deal for
right.
the science community on Twitch. So, absolutely. Uh,
Yeah, absolutely. That is huge. Yeah, it is huge, and I think it's a recognition. It's a nice piece of recognition from Twitch that the science is growing, and yeah, it's awesome. I'm hoping that science is great, and I'm sure that there's going to be big things coming out of that. Science is incredible at leveraging
yeah,
uh, all of the platforms and stuff. So it's going to be super cool to watch that grow.
yeah,
And I've said this before. I know some people have commented, but I am a strong believer that a rising tide carries all boats. So we're all in it together, as far as I'm concerned. And people are always asking, "Oh, well, aren't you worried? Like, you're encouraging other people to stream science. Aren't you worried they're going to steal viewers from you?" And I'm like, "No, I don't think that's how it works."
yeah.
But you know,
I agree with you, and in the same the same right, being Lego streamer myself, right? I'm more variety, but I do love the Lego. I'm in it a lot, and it's really, people have said that it's like, oh, aren't you worried that it's going to get harder to be streaming in it? We got a new category on the Lego side. Aren't you worried that people won't tune in as much or think questions like that? And it's like, well, Actually, it didn't cross my mind until someone asked me, and frankly, I like you agree that rising tide lifts all ships, right? It's the fact that there's more people bringing awareness to it, just like the science category. How long has science been a category on Twitch? Is that
A
it's
long
been a
time, I
while?
think.
Yeah,
Yeah, a long time. I know
yeah,
there's been people streaming science on Twitch since almost the beginning.
right.
There's a bunch of people in the Knowledge Fellowship, like Dr. WD40 and Mahoodles, I think, and
Hmm.
a couple other people who have been streaming for 10 plus years on and
Yeah,
off. And so, yeah, but as a category, I'm not sure. I don't remember when
yeah.
the
It's been
category
a while.
existed it
Yeah,
was
it's been a
definitely
while.
there when I came in. So,
Great. When you were talking about getting started and the struggles like I think many of us have had when getting started, were there any particular challenges for you that you worked through as you were getting started and working on the platform, especially with the knowledge of doing something like science or kind of outside the regular thing on Twitch?
yeah, I think trying to make it entertaining without trying to find my niche for like making it entertaining, but also making it so it's keeping the science and education content in there, uh, but not making it like super technical and super heavy. Um,
Right.
and trying to find that balance is something I still struggle with and I've struggled with since the beginning. And I know that, I mean, my chat for the most part, I have a broad cross section in chat, but I know I have quite a few technical people who would like it probably if it was more more tech heavy and more science heavy than it is. But then
Yeah.
I know I have a bunch of people who that would not appeal, and that and I'm also not like a hugely um, I don't know, like a big showman. I would say like there are some people who stream and they have all the flashing lights and all the buttons and they have 1,000 redeems and the stream is always doing something different, and I enjoy that. I enjoy watching that, but that's not like me. And
Right.
so but you see that and you see the somebody that's doing that has a high number of viewers, and there's a temptation to try and replicate that. So I think I try and keep away from that and just kind of do my thing and just sort of trust that it's going to work. But um, I definitely struggle to try and find that balance between keeping it technical enough to keep the science savvy people interested, but making it accessible enough for new people to enjoy and get something out of.
Yeah. I definitely can sympathize with your point about showmanship. You have people who are very uh, able to entertain, right? They're playing for to the audience in this show, and
Right.
like you, I get it. Like you, I'm the same way where I recognize it. Not really how I approach it. I love hanging out in those streams, but from when I'm doing a stream about Lego or a game, I'll I'm focused on engaging the chat, but I'm not, trying to be more than I am, right? I'm a very calm person. I like to,
Yeah. Right.
have a very just I like to engage and talk, but I'm not over the top about it, which, some folks do wonderfully. As far as, I like your point of talking about balancing uh how deeply you actually go, how technical you are with the things that you cover versus like making it more accessible. What kind of goes into that? How do you approach your content in that way that tries to kind of uh, cater to those two extremes?
Yeah. So I try and sometimes I try and just hit the middle, right? So I did teach when I was at University of Illinois in grad school. I did teach astronomy. I taught 100 and 200 level astronomy classes, and I think I even TA'd for a couple of grad classes. So that was useful in the sense that it gave me an idea of like what level people are at, like a freshman undergrad in college,
Right.
kind of know the sort of the mathematical knowledge that people might have, or just generally what they're interested in and what they think is cool. So that helps. And so sometimes I'll try and shoot for like the middle, and then other times we'll do a deep dive on a topic, and I just sort of say, hey, we're going to go, this is going to be technical or more technical.
Yeah.
And so I get it. If it's not your thing, I totally get it. And feel free to, go hang out somewhere else for a while and come back later. And I think sometimes you just have to do that. And then other times it's just a completely general thing. And I know that some of the technical people are going to get bored and probably go find something else to do as well. But you just can't, it's really hard to please all the people all the time. And so I try and do that maybe like, 50% of the time. And then it's like 25 and 25 from like technical and non-technical after that. And sometimes we just play games or goof around or play words on stream or, do some other things. We build Lego. I do some Lego. You can see behind me, but I do a lot of the space Lego. So that's cool too. And that kind of is a different vibe. And I think now I'm more comfortable on stream as well, just chatting. Before I would always just jump straight into. So we always start my streams with astronomy picture of the day, and that was kind of like my thing. So we will always look at these beautiful astronomy pictures to get people jazzed and to draw people in, and then we'll look at the photographer, because you can actually click on the name of the photographer and it will show you their webpage, and sometimes it shows you what equipment they used and all these other things. So it's kind of like a nice, typically 30 or 40 minutes of doing 2 or 3 pictures and looking at the equipment and making people realize that they don't necessarily need a huge amounts of fancy equipment to get some really cool astrophotography or whatever. And so that used to be, I would start that like minute 1, and now I'll just be goofing with chat and we'll be talking, and it'll often be, I see Gwendolyn P in chat. Gwendolyn P's always giving me a hard time because like it'll be 45 minutes before we even start APOD. I think last week there was a stream where it was 2 hours and we still hadn't done APOD. So, but I'm much more comfortable with that now than I used to be, and I just kind of let it go because it's like, I think it's much more when it's organic. When the streams are organic and it's chat interacting with you and you interacting with chat and talking about what they want to talk about, I think it's a much better experience for everybody.
I love that. I completely, I agree. And I used to be like, oh, let's jump right into, whatever it is I want to do for the day or the stream. And then like I'll spend an hour or more hanging out with chat before we even really get into the activity for the stream. And so, I love that organic, where does chat want to go today? How do we navigate that? What does that mean for everyone? Can we have fun talking about these other topics? And I think that's really important in terms of connecting with the people in your channel and your community. So, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is that, in the beginning, you don't really know each other that well, right? It's like, these people are in my chat, but now, like, I know I've been hanging out with these people for like 2.5 years, and I want to chat with them. I want to find out what they've been up to. They want to know what I've been doing, and we'll see someone who hasn't been in for a while. Oh, why haven't you? Like, they'll be like, oh, sorry, I haven't been here. I've had this or that, and we'll talk about whatever's going on with them. And it's nice to just actually hang out as a community for a while, I think, and that is one of the strengths of a platform like Twitch, is that you can do that live and more so than like say YouTube videos where there's no interaction, obviously, except the comment section.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, it's evolved for me, certainly.
Yeah, definitely over time, especially even in the span of 2.5 years since you started. How do you feel about how your content and your channel and community have evolved in that time compared to where you started?
Oh God, it's night and day for sure. The community is great. The community has grown. We just passed 2,000 followers a couple of weeks ago, I think. Just after TwitchCon, it's good. And then it's somehow or other just clicking over that 2,000 has like really jet powered everything, and we've added almost 100 in the last couple of weeks as well. So it's some kind of like growth that's happening, which is great to see. But I mean, the community is amazing. I have a really supportive community. I have a really good crowd of regulars who'll show up. Like, I typically start stream and there's like a 15-minute, getting ready to stream, and it's like starting soon. The starting soon screen is up. And I'll go in there and go live, and there's 15 or 20 people in there already. It's crazy. They're insane.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, but they're all in there chatting and hanging out and saying hi, and so the community side of things has really evolved, and it's it's great. I love the community, and we try and like interact on Discord when we're not streaming and when we're not live, and sharing pictures, and we have like a technical part of the Discord where people can talk about projects that they're working on or get advice from people, because we have a solid community of people who are interested in tinkering and astronomy and building hardware and all kinds of stuff. So,
Yeah.
so that's great. The content, I think the content's evolved, but it's still fundamentally the same. But I think it's presented maybe in a different way, and I try and mix in more different different kinds of media. So like I said, we'll look at like a pod on, but then maybe we'll watch a YouTube video on a topic that we're interested in. Or we'll have a guest come on and talk about some stuff. And so I try and, when I first started, it was definitely like just a wall of me talking, and we're going to do this paper and then talk about this article and this and that. And it's kind of like a lecture, you can only listen to a lecture for so long before you doze off to sleep, or alternatively click on someone else's stream.
Right. Yeah.
So I try and find a balance between mixing in the science, but also, and sometimes we'll just watch goofy YouTube videos about like, flat Earth moon landing denials, and those kinds of things, just for a break. And then the Lego, we'll mix in some Lego, play some games occasionally. Like we've been playing, or I started playing Star Wars Outlaws, which we have to finish. Might do that tonight, actually. I think tonight might be a good Star Wars Outlaws.
Oh, great.
And so, yeah, it also depends how energetic I'm feeling. We won't tackle massively technical, big, heavy subjects when I'm not fully engaged. So, and I think now I'm, before I would have forced that, whereas now I'm just like, look, guys, I don't have what it takes to do that today. Let's do something else.
Yeah, definitely.
Chat's really good about that. So, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it's very much the same type of content over time, but I think you're more in touch with how you feel about it, seems, in terms of like how you want to present it, and certainly showing, I like how your lecture example and how you started off there, and then you kind of realized where to take it at that point. And I think that's always the toughest thing about when we're figuring out our content, when we're figuring out what we're doing. And in the case of things like science, right? It's so there are papers, there are lectures, there are things that can easily be brought out, but does that translate and appeal while on Twitch, right? And it seems like you're doing a lot of that work, figuring out like what does that, how do we turn some very interesting topics into something that you can consume on Twitch.
Yeah, absolutely. And the YouTube shorts have actually helped with that a lot, because every day now, and I was looking at the science news before, of course, but now there's like this. I look at it more from a point of view of like, okay, what would people find interesting? Not just what do I think is the biggest piece of science news or space, what's the biggest thing that's happening, but you have to some extent, there's no point making a video about something that you think is really important and like scientifically valid if no one's ever going to watch it, right? You can do that occasionally. I make those videos sometimes and nobody watches them, and that's fine. I feel good about that. But for the most part, you have to watch. If you're trying to create content to engage people, you have to pick things that they'll find interesting. So the YouTube shorts have been really good for helping me pick out stuff that I can then talk about that on stream as well.
Yeah.
There was a big story about a new asteroid collision back in history, which off the coast of West Africa, And I read that story. I made a YouTube video, and then I was like, "Oh, hey, we should talk." So, and it may have been around the same time as the Chicxulub impact that we think caused the dinosaurs to go extinct.
Oh wow.
Most dinosaurs. Whatever. I don't want to get into
Right.
I know the
Yeah,
dinosaur
yeah,
people
yeah.
are like, oh yeah, but okay, non-avian dinosaurs, whatever. And I was like, oh, we should talk to Danny. So I had paleontologizing come on, and we talked about the overlap between those two things. And then at the last minute, I was like, oh, we should get Volcano Doc as well to talk about the geological stuff. And so
Right.
we did a really cool collab stream with the three of us, and we chatted for like an hour about this stuff. I talked about some of the space aspects and the asteroid, and you know, Danny talked about the dinosaurs and the biology, and then Volcano Doc brought her geology expertise, and it was super cool. So those kinds of things have come up, which those are connections that I wasn't necessarily always making before. If I was just when I was just going live, because if I hadn't been keeping up with the news that particular day, it wouldn't always be something relevant to talk about. Whereas now I got more stuff to talk about than I can fit into a 2 or 3 hour stream.
Yeah. No, I think that's incredible that you were able to bring and tie in other creators into a conversation like that. I think collaboration, especially across science, like different sciences, is something that you don't see. Like, I mean, backing up to science is something you don't see a lot of in general on Twitch, right? Which we've talked about, and having you and I discuss trying to grow that audience in that space here. But the fact that you were able to bring in other folks who have their own things that they're interested, their own specialties, and that you were able to cross pollinate those communities, I think that's awesome. And I already know that the science, the science streamers, there's quite a few of you who do collaborate, but I like to see those opportunities. How often does that happen within the science community on Twitch? How often is there crossover between different channels?
Probably not as often as it should, because in theory everyone wants to do it, but like just trying to get it scheduled and stuff can be a challenge. But I think everyone is super into it. Like the science community on Twitch is super collaborative, and if you ever you want to chat with someone, it's like, oh hey, do you have time? And it's like, man, I wish I did, but or yeah, let's do this or that. Like we were saying before about I was on Tiny Toxic Tofu's stream on Thursday.
Yeah.
When she does the tech talks, and she just contacted me and was like, oh hey, I'd love to have you on to chat about this stuff. And it's these opportunities come up, and I think the only reason that there aren't more collabs is just a timing issue, and everyone's so busy with their own stuff, and the content creation can be time consuming. So yeah, but the community is amazing, and the science creators we love to collaborate with each other, and especially if we can find crossover. There's so many overlaps between different streams.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there a collaboration or something that you had in mind that you want to do that hasn't happened yet?
There's a bunch. Science. I've been talking with science. We've been trying to organize a collab on. There's bacteria that are evolving on the ISS apparently.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do it. I wanted to talk to him about that, and there's I've got other collabs lined up with paleontologizing. I'm talking with Tiny Toxic Tofu. Her PhD, her expertise is in battery technology. And one of the things, so on my Thursday streams, we focus a little more on earth science and climate change. And a lot of it is from an engineering point of view. So like battery technology, wind turbine technology, the actual engineering solutions to some of the climate change issues.
Yeah.
So it'll be an awesome collab to have, to get her on. But it's the same thing. She's lecturing. She's got grading to do, and the first availability is January. So we'll get something lined up for January. But it can take some time with people who aren't, especially if they're not full time content. If they have another job as well, then it can be really tough. And she's an island, just to add another layer of complexity. So it's sometimes it can be a little easier to collaborate with people who are full-time content creators, like people like Paleontologizing, where he's doing it every day.
Right.
Because they can work you into their schedule more easily. But I still love, I love collaborating with anyone and everyone. So we'll still work if it takes until January. The one thing I have learned in all the years is that time passes fast, and January is going to be here before we know it.
Oh yeah, gosh, this month alone
Yeah.
has felt like I blinked, and it's now almost the end of the month. Yeah, absolutely, and you're absolutely. I agree with you, and it's especially producing a show about other creators. I completely understand what it's like to wrangle many other creators. We're all busy for doing everything that we do, whether it be trying to work in a stream or a video together, things like that. And like you said, the full-time creators tend to be the easier ones for me to get as well, because they already kind of know their schedule. Whereas I think, like myself, I work full-time. I also have content creation on my plate, as well as everything else in life. So it makes it hard. But yeah.
Yeah, I think, and Twitch has been really good about tools for that as well. Like the new knock thing seems really cool for just a quick collab, like a much more informal kind of a collab, where if, like the other day when we were doing that collab with Volcano Dog and Paleontologizing, Science was like, oh, we were thinking about knocking and coming in and talking about the biology stuff. I was like, oh man, you should have, because it would have been perfect.
Yeah.
It's not, but they didn't feel prepared or whatever, so they didn't do it. But I think then some of the new and the combined chat and all these other things that you can do, where you can just collaborate with someone for 5 or 10 minutes or even 20 minutes. And it doesn't have to be a huge planned thing ahead of time. It's just like more informal and more organic again, which I think would be good.
I appreciate that perspective. I think a lot of creators are very focused and almost stuck on the whole, like you said, the more formal or the more planned out collaborations. And I think because we're so used to, I think a lot of us are used to that. And what this whole new system that they've added with the knocking drop-ins, I think is the thing. But we all call it knocking because that's what the label is on the button. Right. The fact that these drop-ins are now a thing, because other platforms do things like this already, but I think it was easier on those platforms like Instagram or TikTok. They have some version of that where you can just drop in, have an informal discussion, and you can leave. Not a big deal. And I think with the fact that us not having that for so long on Twitch, we've all become very accustomed to, oh, hey, do you want to come on my stream later or in a week or two? Do you want to plan out a thing? Do you want to play a game together or have a talk show? Or, in the Lego world, do you want to build a Lego set at the same time? And so my read on the whole drop-in system, a lot of creators were actually very, I think almost there's some pushback, and it was interesting because a lot of people were saying the opposite of what you just said. It's like, oh, I want to plan out my collaborations. I want to have the time to do that. And I think you hit the nail on the head there, though, that this affords us the ability to actually have a very quick discussion, something more casual or informal, and take a moment, say hello, maybe have a moment where you can say, hey, I just want to talk to you about this topic for like the next 15 minutes or whatever it might be. When that came out, I saw my friend ArcFox. He was playing a video game, and I was live, and someone said, oh, this game just came out. I was like, oh yeah, ArcFox is playing it. And drop-ins just came out. It was like a couple days, and I was like, do we knock on his stream and just ask him how it's going? And Chad's like, do it. And so I clicked on knock, and I was like, he's not gonna answer. And he actually did. He's like, hey, what is going on? This was like the first time either of us have used the drop-in thing. Yeah. We both used Stream Together plenty, but it was a whole new way of using it. And he was like, what's up, man? What do you need? And I'm like, hey, how's that game? Tell me about the game. And in real time, I was interviewing him about the game. It's like, tell me about it. Would I like it? What's cool about it? And it was a nice 10-minute conversation. I was like, cool, that's all I want. Don't want to bother you. Have a good one, chat. See you all later. And then we parted ways and we went back to our own streams. But I think there's potential for that. I know that new tools can be scary, or things that we're so used to, right? Like, I mean, you've been on Twitch for a couple of years now. I've been on Twitch for a long time as well. We're kind of in a good routine and rhythm of how we approach our content, right? And then to have another tool in our belt. So,
I mean, I think Twitch had conditioned us to certain ways of interacting with other people, right? And some people find change hard, and for me, it's like,
right.
Yeah, if I get the knock and I don't want to, and I'm in the middle of something I don't want to, I'm just not gonna do
not
it.
Gonna answer.
No hard feelings, right? Like, it's cool, but and there's definitely a place for planned out collaborations and big social media pushes, and this is like, but I think it's awesome. Like, if I saw you building a Lego set that I was interested in building, I could jump in and just be like, hey, how's that set? I'm thinking about getting it, or
absolutely.
Where do you? I think it's great, and I have plenty of issues and complaints, but that is one.
Yeah. And you know what? To be quite honest, I'm with you on that too. There's plenty of things that I have critique about in terms of Twitch and the platform and the space and the community overall. But this is definitely to kind of drive to the point of, like, knowing that as creators over time, there's always new ways to do it. There's always new ways to approach our content. I think that's perfectly something we should all be as creators aware of, and not just aware of, but open to, because technology moves very quickly and things change all the time. And so that is something that applies just as much to the creator space in Twitch and what we do here on a regular basis. So, but yeah,
and that's right. I 100%. And the discoverability on Twitch is still so poor. I think that the knock gives you a way of, and I'm not suggesting that people do it for this reason, but it just exposes you to another community, right? Even if it's just for a couple of minutes. It's like people kind of just see your name, and if they then see you again later, maybe they'll be more likely to check you out and see what you're up to. And I think it just gives you another way for people to discover you as well. And with people knocking into your stream as well, right? Bringing their community, you get more exposure that way as well.
Yeah.
We need all the help we can get.
Absolutely. As someone who's like in, making the content that you make, and you're already kind of at that place where it's a small community, not many people know about science on Twitch. Like you said earlier, I mean, like me on a regular basis, I've been like, yeah, Lego's a thing on Twitch. I'm sure it's very similar for you with science. What kind of things have you personally been doing to continue to get the word out? What kind of things do you hope to do to continue to grow the science community on Twitch?
Yeah, so for the growth, a lot of the growth strategies have involved trying to grow off the platform, honestly, which is kind of a shame to say, but that's basically, I mean, that's where the idea for the YouTube shorts came from. It was kind of like, I can reach a different audience and get some education content out there, right? Try and get some people jazzed about space and science and all those cool things, and maybe drive a little bit of awareness about Twitch as well, and the platform and science on Twitch, and perhaps get some traffic back. And I don't really know how successful that's been. It doesn't seem overwhelmingly successful, but I think that was kind of the original motivation, and now it's more about just growing the communities on these other platforms and getting the content out there. And sort of letting the dice fall where they may as far as whether that leads people back to the Twitch platform. Like, for example, with the TikToks, you can't, if you put a link to your Twitch on the TikTok, they'll kill it. Nobody will ever see it.
Yeah.
So YouTube's a little better. You can put a link or a little thing, and that doesn't seem to affect the video performance. But so in terms of growth, those were the original motivation for them was growth for Twitch, but now they've just kind of become their own thing. They have a life of their own, and Twitch growth has been more focused on stuff like TwitchCon, going to TwitchCon, collaborating with other streamers, networking with other streamers, and those kinds of strategies, and just trying to make really good content for the streams that encourages people to watch, and also supporting other science streamers on the platform to grow their channels, because again, the same thing, right? With the rising tide, the more jazzed we can get everybody about science on Twitch, the better for all of us, I think. And so yeah, I've always got tabs open. I'm always hanging out in whoever's streaming.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a bit of a spray shot, and I certainly haven't cracked the code for. If you have any suggestions or anything that was been working for you really well, but
I think you're on track though with the talking about, and again, this is the unfortunate thing, right? Is your approach to growing on other platforms is only going to help you on Twitch, whereas anything we do on Twitch, there's kind of a certain point where we can only do so much, and like you called out earlier, discoverability is somewhat lacking, right? And that's why there are these tools now that they're coming out with to collaborate, because I think they're hoping that there's more like internal growth within the system, helping other streamers, shed light on those within their communities. But even Twitch themselves has said, your biggest bang for your buck there is really also growing your presence on other social media platforms, which, man, I've never heard anyone say that before. I've never heard any platform come out and just say, use other social media.
I mean, I guess at least they're honest is the best you could say.
Right. I guess. I think that's kind of wild to say, because you want... Yeah. But it's really interesting. And, I think what you've been doing for the science community, doing those TwitchCon talks as they arise. I mean, you and I were chatting about that before we went live today. It's a cool thing to do. Getting out there. Obviously, there's only so much one can say about, hey, there is science on Twitch, even though there are far more cool, interesting topics within science on Twitch. But even just sharing the fact that it exists, there's only so much one can do. But yeah, the other platforms, the cons, those seem to be kind of the ticket. So I haven't cracked the code either, but I would say you're doing the thing that a lot of us would expect to do if we're trying to grow awareness around a given community or space within Twitch.
Yeah.
So
right. For sure. And the audience is there for sure, because when you look at like science or paleontologizing or any of these people, when they're on the front page of Twitch, I mean, science will have over 1,000, he'll have 1,000 to 1,500 people watching his stream.
Right.
And then when he's not, he's in the hundreds, like the low hundreds for an audience. So that's the difference between people knowing that you're doing it and not knowing. And that's just through Twitch. So it just tells you that with better discoverability, you can definitely grow. But
yeah.
And I get it. It's hard. It's a tough problem. I know Twitch has been trying to solve that. It's not like they're doing it on purpose, right? If they knew how to solve it.
If they knew how to solve it, we would have that solution would be out there.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I did want to talk about a little bit is your time at NASA, and how, you mentioned that you've been there. I guess my question is, how has that impacted your content? what about that time has been useful for you, at least within the scope of making things on Twitch and YouTube and all those on those content platforms? Has it had an impact in terms of what you do and how you approach it?
Oh my gosh, that's a really good question. I mean, without a doubt, it must have had an impact because it was a great experience. I mean, I enjoyed working there. It definitely gave me. So sometimes, if we're talking about NASA, we're talking about space, we're talking about, well, why does NASA do things this? Everybody's like, well, Elon Musk is doing it, can do everything faster and cheaper, and it's like, well, yeah, but hold on a second,
Right.
And so I can give a bit more of the NASA perspective on that, and that kind of stuff. And I think seeing people, how people. So we obviously did education and outreach right from NASA as well, and so seeing some of that and some of the tools has been really beneficial. Having cool projects to talk about is always really interesting, and just having that background, I think, there's a certain fraction of people who are going to drop you a follow just because you worked at NASA, right? Like, maybe they'll never come to a stream, but it definitely helps. It definitely gives you a little bit of an I don't want to say advantage, but a
little credibility, probably. Right?
Yeah, a little credibility, exactly. Yeah. It's like, so and yeah, well, I'm always, I was there for 10 years and I worked on stuff. Half the stuff I've kind of I don't want to say I've forgotten about, but there's projects I worked on where something will come up in chat. And I'll be like, oh yeah, we did this thing one time, and it'll turn into a whole thing with chat. So, but it definitely shaped. I mean, I went to JPL as a postdoc. I was a postdoctoral researcher. So I had a postdoctoral fellowship there, and so basically from grad school, that was the only place I worked. I spent some time at Caltech as well, so I got to work with some cool people down at Caltech in the astronomy department, and it's definitely. I know that it has shaped like my view of science and the way that I stream, but it's a little bit difficult maybe to sort of put it into
pinpoint
words.
Exactly what it means.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely creeps into almost everything, for sure.
Absolutely.
We always joke about this when I was chatting with someone. I'm always surprised by people's reactions, because to me, to some extent, I think everybody, whatever you do, right, at some point it's a job.
Yep.
And you can love it. It can be your passion. It can be whatever. But at some point, it's like the 9 to 5. There's some sort of grind. There's bureaucracy. There's all these other things. And so I'm like, oh yeah, I used to work at NASA. And people's reaction, oh my God, you worked at NASA. That's really cool. And it's kind of like, it's always a bit surprising to me still, even now, right, the reaction that it gets from people. So, but it's super cool. I mean, I love it. It's great, but it's
No, that's incredible. And I like your point about, it's still a job, right? It was still a job that you had to be at, like you said, the bureaucracy, internal politics, I'm sure, things like all of that still applies. Like most jobs that people have, I'm a game developer, so I'm not out here doing anything that's, making big leaps for humanity or anything. There's some great things about being a game developer for the extrinsic rewards of helping others in other ways, but people do this like a similar thing. I would say it's not on the level of NASA, but they're like, oh, that's really cool that you get to make games. I'm like, yeah, it's cool. It's a job. It's still a job. Especially I'm not like an indie developer. I work at a fairly decent sized company that makes games and at the end of the day wants to make money. So, I can sympathize to a degree, knowing that people are like, oh, that's great. Yeah, it's cool. There's some really cool stuff about it, and I'm sure on a much higher level, you still get, like you said, you're probably still you're still surprised that you get those reactions of having worked at NASA. People respond to it in amazing ways. I saw it firsthand actually when I was over at TwitchCon in the panel watching all of you.
Oh yeah.
People, love the fact that we got you all had NASA there represented too this year, so that it's a big deal, right? How has it been being able to at least have some representation from NASA at a TwitchCon panel? How was that for you and the other
Oh yeah,
panelists?
it's been huge. So they were actually at Vegas last year as well. They had their own panel in
Right,
Vegas,
right,
and we had a separate science panel that I did with Volcano Dog, Mahoodle Science, and Paleontologizing,
right,
and we just talked about streaming science. So there was the NASA was on one day, and they were talking mostly about um, the video production and the streaming and the fact they had one mod and like 10,000 people in chat and those kinds of things. So it was super interesting. And then this year, Mahoodles actually organized this collab where we had two amazing people from NASA come and join us. Was myself, Astro Canuck, and Mahoodles on the panel, and we got to talk about more specifically about space streaming on Twitch and NASA's presence on Twitch and what they have planned for the future. And then, of course, we all got to talk about the things that we stream and Mahoodles and Astro Canuck actually got to go to a launch just recently for Europa Clipper,
right.
which is cool. And I still have my credit with them, so I can cash my credit in for a launch sometime. So I'll
That's
definitely
great.
be doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great to see such a huge reaction to the panel because I mean it was in a good sized room. I don't know how it was, probably like 200 people or something,
Yeah.
and they had to
Standing room
close the
only.
doors. And so yeah, it was standing room only, and then
Yeah.
essentially they reached whatever the file limit was for the room, and they had to close the doors. So I mean, it was great to see that, and people asked some really good questions, and the discussion was really good, and it's it's huge. I think it's huge for Twitch. NASA goes live on Twitch, and they have 10,000 people watching them almost.
Yeah.
I don't want to say instantly, but within a few minutes, the word gets out. So it's they have their own unique challenges, and it's super interesting chatting with them all about that. But yeah, I mean, they do a great job, and it was amazing to be able to just share the stage with them.
That's
Talk about
fantastic.
stuff.
Yeah, that was excellent. I was there. I got to be there. I wanted to make sure that I got to see it firsthand myself, and yeah, that was it. It was incredible. It was amazing to see, you and Astro, in particular, because I know you two the most out of that panel. But
Yeah.
it was great to see that representation, and to I was at the other panel last year, the one that you were in. That's actually, I think, how you and I finally got to meet, because I think you were there after the Lego panel. You and I chatted.
Yeah, I came to the Lego panel,
You came over, said hello, and then I made sure I was over at the science panel, and then yeah. So to see that growth between just those two panels, as well as the fact that like you said, the room was packed. They hit their limit. They had to close the doors. That was an incredible thing to see in person, and I was so proud of all of you up there on stage. I snapped a quick picture and posted it, but it says a lot. It says a lot about the community and the growth that you all are seeing as a presence on the Twitch platform. So I wanted to make sure that we called that out, because that's a pretty incredible thing, and I see it going. I see it continuing to grow at that rate. So yeah, I can't wait to see what else is in store for you and for everyone over on the panel. Thinking back the 2.5 or so years that you've been doing this, would you have done anything differently?
Would I have to? Oh my gosh, I don't know. Not really. I mean, there's a few things. I would have done differently. I probably would have tried to start collaborating with people sooner than I did. But partially that was just a question of actually finding the community, and getting to know people. So so it's easy to say I would have done that, but I don't know how much faster I could have done that. But I love the collabs. That's one of the best parts of this for me. Like this conversation, right? Just having these conversations about science and science streaming is super cool. And so I probably would have done those more. But other than that, I don't. I mean, it's hard to sort of. I think it's just a process, you know, and.
Right.
It would have been great if it had grown. You know, would it be great to just grow to like 10,000 followers in in a year? Sure, of course.
Right.
But no, I mean, I kind of I've enjoyed the journey. I've enjoyed the building the community that we have. We have a great community, and there's little things that I would have changed. I think I probably would have. I probably would have the biggest thing would have been to get to the kind of content that I'm making now sooner than I have, I think. But again, there's another thing that's easy to say, but I'm not sure that you can do that, right? I think you
Right.
maybe that you have to iterate through all the other stuff to figure out what it is that you actually do want to do and how you want to do things. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like I don't feel like I made any huge mistakes. I don't think I hit any massive home runs either. You know, it's just kind of been a process, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure that I would have done things that much differently.
Right. Is there anything you would tell someone who wants to be in the science Twitch space that they're getting started? What would you tell that person?
Yeah, so we've had this. So this question's come up in the panels and stuff. I
Yep.
think just go live, man. Like that's always my advice when people are like, well, "What should I do? And what light should I get? And what camera do I need?" And it's like you don't need any of this stuff. You know, it all helps. Yeah, it makes it look nice and whatever else. But the biggest thing you can do for yourself is just go live and figure out, like we just talked about, right? Start that journey of figuring out what kind of content you want to make, what kind of community you want to build, what people are interested in, and you don't need a $500 DSLR and all that stuff to do that.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I always tell people is just to stream something that you're interested in. Stream what you're passionate about, because if you don't, at some point it's just going to be a grind, and you're not going to enjoy it. You got to be doing something that you enjoy and talking about things that you enjoy talking about. So those are always the two things that I say. But I think just go live is my biggest thing, and then don't talk about people. Quite a few people, especially like more technical science people, like people with PhDs who are doing research, like, oh, I wanted to talk about all these papers, and I'm kind of like, yeah, that'd be really cool, but maybe not like,
but maybe not.
Maybe do like 15 minutes and then take a break and talk about something else, or break it up over several streams, or just try and
Right.
just try and not make it like a dense technical talk. But there is, I mean, who knows? There could be an audience for that on here as well. I haven't tried
Yeah.
to do that to a large extent, but there's definitely people who are interested in that stuff. And I think whatever kind of content you want to make and whatever kind of science you do, you will find an audience. I don't know how big necessarily the audience is, but if you're not doing it as a job and you're not trying to become the next big mega streamer, that maybe that doesn't matter so much, right? If you're just doing it for fun in a couple of evenings a week after work to hang out with your community and talk about the stuff that you want to talk about,
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. Go for it.
Yeah. Thank you for that specifically, because I think people sometimes get lost in that, and you pointing out that, hey, if you just want to hang out with your community, have fun, talk about whatever, like that is perfectly fine. I think when people listen to these podcasts, they sometimes kind of get in that mode of, oh, I really need to grind, or I really need to keep working to build this channel. And honestly, at the end of the day, is what do you want to do, right? Like, is that your goal? Okay, then maybe you need to work on those things. But if you don't have the goal of growth and full-time streaming, or like you said, being the next mega streamer, right? Like, do what you want to do, you kind of touched a little bit on it, the grind and things like that. Have you ever felt burnt out, or have you ever felt like you've been doing too much when it comes to this sort of thing? And if so, what?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. What was that like for you?
Um, it comes and goes. Like I find I get into a rut sometimes. And this is not currently like a full-time gig for me. You know, it takes up a lot of my time, but it's not. I have other responsibilities and other things that I have to do. And sometimes it can just feel a bit like a job, you know, like, oh man, I have to stream tonight. But I always try and force myself to go live. I've been sick a little bit recently. I had COVID after TwitchCon, and I actually couldn't stream for like, I don't know, I missed like 10 days maybe by the time I was all was said and done. And that was good because I realized then I actually missed it. Like I missed the community. I miss streaming. I realized that I really do enjoy it. And I think sometimes you just have to take a break, you know, and it's like, it's not, what am I trying to say? I think so. When I get burned out, I either stop, like I'll take a week off, or I'll go do something else, you know, or else I'll just say to chat, "Hey, look, I can't. I need to do something else. We're gonna play Minecraft for a couple of streams, or we're gonna do something goofy." And I also try and remind myself. I feel that pressure, you know, like that. We have to grow. We have to like. There's people who are like, "Oh, you should, you know, you need to be Twitch partner. You need to do this. You need to do that." And I feel that, and I definitely get sucked into that. And those things are all. I mean, those things would all be great, and it would all be nice. But I also have to kind of remind myself periodically that this is not currently not a full time gig for me, and I just need to not worry about the number, you know, the viewer numbers and all that stuff that you can get so fixated on if you're not careful.
Yeah.
But yeah, the burnout is definitely real. You can definitely tell. And then of course you're like, well, I don't. If I stop streaming that for a week, is my audience gonna disappear? And there's all these like thoughts that kind of come into your head. But I don't think any of that is. Most of that is probably not real, but it feels real.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it can be very. It can be one of those things where it can cause worry that is, I mean, worry in general is usually unnecessary, right? Worry is waiting for something to happen that might not even happen. But yeah, there's a lot of pressures when it comes to doing this sort of thing, right? And then when you start to see some form of growth, I think people will naturally ask those questions of, you know, are you going to do partner? Are you going to go for that? Is that something you want to do? Or, hey, your numbers are looking really good. People will tell you when. It's interesting because I've, you know, personally have seen it both ways. When a person in the chat's like, oh, hey, man, look at you. Like, a lot of people in your chat lately, right? Or the opposite of like, hey, man, chat's really slow. I'm like, yeah, I'm aware. I'm aware because I'm reading the chat. Yeah, it is a little slow tonight. But yeah, sometimes you feel that pressure of the numbers or the constant need for growth. I think it doesn't help that Twitch, it like inherently was built around gaming, right? And if you look, like, if you're a viewer and you don't know, when you look at your dashboard, there's literally achievements like on your dashboard that you can work towards. And so they kind of almost gamify the act of streaming a little bit, where you're like, oh man, hey, I'm looking really good. Like, hey, week over week, it looks like I have more people watching or following or whatever. Any kind of metric you can think of, it's there, and it'll tell you how you're doing compared to the last month or week, depending on how you're staring at. So there is that pressure, and I really appreciate what I heard from you, you know, asking about Burnout. What I appreciate you saying is like, oh, I'm upfront with my chat. I tell them, hey, let's not do something, you know, too intensive today, right? You're like, let's do something fun. And I really appreciate you recognizing that and communicating it to your chat, because I think some people will go to the extreme of, I'm just not going to even log on, right? Or I'm just not even I'm going to walk away. And I think there is, in some cases, that is perhaps the thing to do. In other cases, it could be just a switch of, yeah, I just want to do something different today. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be with you. community, but let's not do the usual. Let's do something fun. So
yeah.
yeah,
And sometimes I'll just say, look, I'm tired, man, but we'll do an hour. We'll just chat for an hour, and we'll make the most of it, kind of thing.
yeah,
And inevitably those streams end up like 3 hours later, right? But
right.
but people understand. They understand that we have lives and jobs and other
Yeah.
things going on. And I was just thinking about what you were saying. One thing about the community, of course, is once you have subscribers, I think you do feel more pressure as well, right? Because I have these people who are paying money to support the stream, and if I don't stream or I'm not streaming long enough or whatever, there's a little pressure that you feel there to sort of give people some value for their sub.
Yeah.
It's another aspect of it.
Yeah, that is definitely a thing that I think I personally have felt at times, especially, when I see that, oh yeah, I do have so many people subscribed, or I see that, maybe it's a point where I just happen to get, the peek at the dashboard, right, where it shows you how it's. I was like, oh man, that's a lot of people who are subbed right now, or even one, right, like even one person subbed. You're like, oh, that's someone who is giving their money to support the channel, and yeah, at times there's a little guilt there. There's a little guilt there, and I think that requires some thought and grace, and still, on both sides, right? Being the streamer and the person supporting them, like, hey, I can't, maybe the streamer's not feeling it today, but I'll be there. I'll be there tomorrow or whenever you're ready. I've seen nothing but amazing support from my community in terms of like, hey, I need a week, right? If I tell them I need a week or two. But yeah, I'm not immune to that pressure either. Where it's like, oh man, okay, I should do that. You kind of said a phrase that made me kind of wonder, and I want to follow up on it about, hey, maybe you want to be partner, right? Or like, someone's like, maybe you should go for partner, because I've heard similar sentiments said to me. How do you feel about like maybe going for partner at some point? Is that something on your radar? Is that something you would want to do? And I think I know the answer, given how we've already had most of this conversation, but where do you stand on that?
So there is an unofficial, there's a sort of unofficial goal that we're not talking about of maybe trying to get partner before the next TwitchCon. So basically we'd have a year. I don't know. I mean, I think it would be cool. It would be an achievement. It's something to sort of aim for, I think, for me, more so than any of the sort of things that come along with the Twitch partnership, because I don't necessarily know that they would like extra emote slots and stuff like that. I don't necessarily know it's going to change my life, from a streaming perspective.
Right.
But I do think it would be good, and I think there's a bunch of people in the community who would support that, and I think it would be a fun thing to work towards. I'm not sort of what's the word? Like, if it happens, that'll be great. If it doesn't happen, that's totally fine too. Like, I'm not sort of rabidly like, oh my god, I have to be part of it, blah blah blah. So,
right.
But I think it would be cool. It would be it's a little, you get the little purple check mark, and I think it sort of maybe is like another little signal of your commitment to the platform and to your community and all that stuff. So
yeah,
I think it would be neat. What about you? You're putting me on the spot.
Oh man, yeah. No, we joke. It's now a joke in my community because I think, gosh, after a lot of the Lego people who have been at it for a while are definitely, we're seeing more partners come from that group, from that, a lot of the people who are known in the community are hitting partner, and I definitely personally have gotten the, hey, you're next, or hey, when's that happening? And I appreciate that. I think it's cool, feels good, it's a little good for the ego, but like, honestly, I've had this conversation up front with my community multiple times, that I just, I'm not there yet. I'm not even though people know me, even though I'm a presence in the community, I just don't have the numbers to even consider a push, right? Like I would love to be, and for those that don't know, like they're looking for 75 average concurrent viewers to even have you apply for it. I'm not within that. Like, you know, the best I've gotten is 45 to 50 at times. But personally, like, and these days I'm more like 30s. And so I'm okay with that. I think honestly, it would be great. It would be cool. You know, back to my comment of this is an inside joke we have all the time is when I was hanging out with Brix O'Brien and Astro Canuck one night at TwitchCon, they were telling me about like the partner party, and they're like, "Oh yeah, man," they jokingly were like, "You missed out on nachos." I was like, "Oh man, I want partner nachos so bad now." And that's the joke is like, if I were to ever announce a push, it's not to push for a partner, it's to push for partner nachos, right? So that's the joke. But for me, it's, you know, if I ever get to that point where I feel like I'm close enough, maybe I'll announce a push, but we're not even there yet. And we did, you know, it did make me think about it for a while. And I, you know, this was even before TwitchCon. You know, we talk about being consistent and being a, you know, just a regular routine presence in, you know, on Twitch, if you even want to build the community that you want. And so I definitely committed to my community. This was just before actually all the stand up to cancer stuff that that we did in August. I said, hey, you know, I'm gonna commit to just being more consistent. I'm gonna commit to a schedule, and that has been working out really well for me. And there has been some growth there across pretty much all metrics. But you know, I'm not within partner distance or striking distance, but that's okay. It's fine. And if it happens, it happens. If I get close enough, maybe I'll reassess and think about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting now with now they're counting the raids differently as well. It'll be interesting to see how that feeds into the metrics.
Yeah.
Because I know I do get there's a couple of people who've been raiding me consistently, and they're fairly like with a few hundred people, and I think they're trying. They're gently trying to tell me something.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, even with that, the numbers are still borderline.
Yeah.
By the time, because you know, you start streaming, right, and there's a few people, and like it takes maybe half an hour to get things up and running and get a decent sized crowd. Then you're just chasing the average, and I don't know. It seems like a lot of stress to keep
yeah, that's true too. And you know, the stress of it is part of the, I think maybe why I'm so lax about the approach to it, because I've, you know, a number of dear friends have gotten partner in the last year of mine, like you know, Fred and AZ. Yeah, I've seen it, and they've all handled it really well. And I'm not saying that I don't think I could handle it, but I'm also comfortable saying that maybe that's not the stress I want anyway, right. of trying to, because I think I naturally do think about numbers and stats and metrics and things like that. In anything that you can track, unfortunately.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm that kind of person. And I go out of my way to not think about or pay attention to those things if I can. You know, when I'm streaming, I don't have the numbers up. I don't see how many people are watching. Right. I've turned off like the post Twitch like stream emails. I try not to look at those things because I know how it mentally can affect me. And you know, when I do look, it's always very intentional. I'm like, okay, I'm going to look at this for the next 5 minutes and I'm not going to worry about it until next week. Right. And so it helps my mental health to be very careful about that sort of thing. Yeah.
And I was at one of the panels. I think it was Ash said this, but someone made a really good point. It was about full-time content creation and going full-time and all this other stuff. And they made the point of like, yeah, it's getting partner or, you know, going full time, all this stuff is stressful for you, but it also puts a lot of stress on your community as well.
Yes,
And you have to think about
absolutely.
that, you know, uh, kind of pushing people to, or asking people to be there all the time and not miss streams and, you know, keep the
Yeah.
numbers up. It's just kind of like, it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, that's such a really good point. And I remember catching myself even saying something to that tune. This was like, I want to say a month or so after AZ Pinoy got partner, right?
Uh-huh.
He got partner. The Lego community was behind him, as well as many, many other people. And it was like, oh, more like someone made an offhanded joke, like, hey, you're next, right? When we all gonna push for you? And I'm like, no, man, I don't wanna put that pressure on the community too. Like, we just got done
Yeah.
helping one of our own for a couple months to get there. And I felt like we, you know, I know people would not question it, but like, I don't want to put that on people. I don't want to put that kind of pressure and say, hey, you have to be here, especially after having done that for a couple other people like just before me. And so, yeah, it's a whole thing. And, I admittedly am not good at asking for that stuff. I've had to get better.
Right.
Right. And asking for that kind of help and support. But man, I don't want to put that pressure on people. So, yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
So I guess, what is next for you? What do you have going on? What kind of things are we looking to in the future for Nerduino and his community and channel?
Well, now I have to announce my partner push, right? Like,
yeah, I was gonna say, speaking of next steps, what are you
no, I think so. I at the end of the year, I'm going to start reassess the short form content, see how that's going. And I would like to do more long form content on YouTube as well, but that's kind of a heavier push. The short form, getting decent viewership for the short form is relatively easy. The long form thing is more of a road. But I do think I would like to do that. Maybe make some more videos. Maybe just like a weekly video on some topic of, maybe like 5 or 10 minutes or something. So that's definitely something I'm thinking about. Also building up my Patreon. So I'm working on trying to figure out the tiers and the benefits for the Patreon, and try and maybe, I don't want to say make this full time, but maybe make it more of a part time gig that actually pays at least pays for itself, which right now doesn't do that, and at some point maybe think about full time, but so moving like towards that and trying to get some more things set up, and just doing some more collabs. I think is a big focus for me in the next 12 months. More collabs, more interesting people to talk to, more people on stream, and just being better about getting that scheduled. So those are kind of the things that I'm working on for the next few months anyway.
All right, I love that. I'm sure you and I could talk all day about everything we're doing, but I don't want to take up so much more of your time. So I want to kind of cap it off. I want to say thank you for being here, Nerduino. It was great getting your perspective and, you representing, science on the platform, doing the work that you do. Thank you for doing that. It's incredible work. I see wonderful things coming from you and the science community here on Twitch. So got to thank you for that. It's been fantastic. Do you have any final thoughts, any final words, anything that you want to share with those who are here with us live or who are listening later on the platform? Any thoughts?
Yeah, look, thank you so much for the opportunity to come on here and chat with you. Like you said, I'm pretty sure we could go all day, and maybe we'll get together again sometime soon. But yeah, it's been awesome to chat with you. I'm live on Twitch Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays currently. You can get my schedule on my Twitch page, twitch.tv/Nerduino. And then I also have a link tree You can find all my socials, Instagram and YouTube and all that good stuff. But yeah, just support your local science streamers. When you see them online, go in and chat and just participate in those communities, because that's why we're all here, is to build science on Twitch and to build up the science community here, and to get people interested in science ultimately. So yeah, that's all I would say.